Hi there BookTube, it's Eleanor here, and this is the start of my vlog for the Winter Biannual Bibliothon. If you saw my last video, you know that I've just had surgery on a Bartholin cyst, and the surgery this time was much more, not complicated, but I'm in a lot more pain, and the cyst was much bigger, and the recovery is going to be a lot longer. And everyone keeps telling me that that will give me much more time to read, and because I've been signed off work for a week and I'm in quite a lot of pain, and you would think that that would give you a lot more time to read, but as is with all things like this, when you are told you can do something, when there isn't an awful lot for you to do but sit around and read, you just don't want to read. So far I've been off for a day. Yeah, I've been off for a day and a bit, and I've hardly read anything. So yes, we shall see how this goes, but today is the first day of the Biannual Bibliothon. Just in case you didn't see my TBR video, let me refresh you on what books I'm reading. Okay, so the books on my TBR are Exit West, The Empress of All Seasons, Emergency Contact, The Broken Girls, the graphic novel of To Kill a Mockingbird, and a book of book lists, which I'm hoping might give me some inspiration for some future videos. So spoiler alert, there might be some interesting things that come of this, hopefully. So I think I'm going to leave these two until nearer the end, because they're easier to sort of dip in and out and read quicker. So I think I'm going to start with one of the other books. I am currently reading Spinning Silver by Naomi Novak with Steffi from Fun Loving Steffi, and I'm nearish the end, but I don't want to rush that. We're reading 50 pages a day, so I'm thinking I might not start with the fantasy book until I finish that one, because having two fantasies on the go might be a bit much. So I think at the moment I'm veering towards one of these two, and I'm thinking, paired up with that sort of fantasy, I might go for this one. So I think I'm going to start by dipping into this one. I've just had the doorbell go, and my ring light has arrived. I treated myself, I got some money for Christmas, and I've treated myself to a ring light. I don't think my videos are terrible in terms of quality, but I feel like they could be better, and I want to see the difference that a ring light can make, so I'm hoping that that will give you a better quality of picture here, maybe better colour or something. I'm not very technical in terms of being able to edit and do things in my videos, and actually that's something I'd like to work on this year. I'd like to learn some more editing tricks for using on my iMovie. I use the iMovie to edit. I haven't bought an application or anything for it, but some of the things I'd really like to learn how to do is to sort of insert things like countdown timers, and putting like graphics down the side where you can highlight things, and yeah, I'd like to learn some tips and tricks for things like that. I can input pictures in. I think I've worked out how to input videos in, and I can do sort of your basics and, you know, titles and things like that, but I'd like to learn a few more things, so that is on my list of things to learn this year. Maybe I should be doing that while I'm off, because I could do that sitting on my bottom. There's always YouTube videos and tutorials and stuff, but I think if you're watching a tutorial on something, like you're watching a tutorial on how to put in a countdown timer or something, it's always good to be editing a video that you can use that in and use that practical knowledge straight away, rather than just watching the video on how to do it and then forgetting about it next time you come to edit, or not having time. So I need to sort of try and marry that up at some point. But yeah, I think I'm going to start with this one. I can't remember what challenge this fulfills, but I'll let you know when I come back and give you some of my thoughts on it. Unfortunately, I mean, I suppose it's vlogging because I've not set you up all properly, but I'm not really going to be going anywhere because I'm on house arrest. I need to relax and rest and heal, and so I won't be going anywhere, but maybe I'll just take you in, film in different parts of the house or something. We'll see. But yeah, I've had really mixed reviews of this one, so I'm really interested to see what I think of it. And I'm going to go in with an open mind, slightly hesitant, so maybe it'll end up being better than I expect. I don't know, but I'm going to predict for all my books. Actually, I'm going to do that for this time. I'm going to predict what rating I'm going to give all the books before I read them, and we'll see how I get on. I think this is going to be a 3-star read for me. Let's find out. I've got no idea if this is making me look better or not. I've got my ring light on. Let's try turning it up and see what that does. Does that make a difference? I don't know. I can't tell. I'm sure I will tell come editing stage. So since I last saw you, I've got my ring light set up and it's now Monday morning. I'm feeling a little bit better. I'm still in quite a bit of pain, which is a bit annoying, but it's easier to stand up, so this is okay to do. I finished my first book for the biannual bibliothon, and that is Emergency Contact by Mary H.K. Choi. And I ended up really enjoying this one. My prediction, however, was correct. I gave it a 3 stars, and I'm not sure why that is. I just felt like, I think for me, when I go into a contemporary, I want it to be a bit lighter, maybe, in terms of like a contemporary romance. I felt like this was a little bit not nitty gritty, but I suppose it was more realistic for nowadays teenagers in America. I don't know. I just found it really hard to relate to the characters, I think, and I struggled with that a little bit. I liked it and it was a really good read while I read it, but I think I did have to sort of keep telling myself that I was reading it for a readathon, I needed to read it, and I think when you have to remind yourself to pick up a book and it's not one that you're readily like jumping for, you can't really give it much more than 3 stars. So I enjoyed it and it was fine at the time, but I'm not sure it'll be one that will stick with me. Also, I found it a little bit irritating, the way that they talked a little bit. I just feel like sometimes in these books, the characters talk too old for their actual age, and I thought there was parts of this where I felt like that was happening a little bit. I enjoyed the development and looking into sort of family and mothers and friendship, and our main character's sort of personal growth throughout this. She's, we're really seeing it from 2 perspectives. We've got Penny, and she is going off to college. She's not really had many friends at school, sort of self distanced herself from people, I suppose. She doesn't feel like anybody sort of measures up to what it is that she's looking for and what she's interested in. She goes off to college and she has a roommate, and it's about sort of the relationships there. And then she meets this guy through her roommate's uncle, which is weird, but it makes sense when you read the book. And we follow him and his past, and I think I really struggled with him and his relationship, his previous relationship. I just found that a bit annoying, and I'm sure it is realistic, but it just, yeah, I just found it a bit annoying. So it was good, it wasn't great, so I'm going to give it 3 stars, and I'm going to move on to my next one. I think I'm going to read Exit West next, but I'll come back to you in a bit because I'm starting to flag and feel a bit tired, so I'll come back in a minute. Okay, so I'm back. I'm not talking about a book that was on my biannual bibliothon TBR, but I wanted to use this opportunity to wrap up this book as well. I've been reading over the past week Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. I've been reading this with Steffi from Fun Loving Steffi and Meryl from Blackbird's Books, and I've been reading about 50 pages a day, but because I'm off, I sort of finished this one off today. I really loved Naomi Novik's Uprooted. I gave it 5 stars when I read that last year, I think it was, or the year before. This one didn't quite meet up with my expectations. I loved it, I still really loved it, and I think Naomi Novik creates a wonderful world and a sense of a place. She really does know her world, fantasy world inside and out, and you can tell that. Whereas Uprooted was much more plot driven, it had that fast pace, that movement that I really enjoyed. This one was much slower, and I was saying to the ladies as we were reading, there was like a chunk in the middle where I felt like we were going quite slowly, and I think that was because there were so many points of view in this. we had our main two women, Arena and Miriam, and they seemed to be from the offset our sort of main points of view, but there were so many other points of view that ended up coming into this. And we flitted between them quite often, which at times I found a bit confusing, and I would read a whole page before I could work out whose point of view we were reading from. And I just felt like that dragged the plot out, and I can see why she wanted to have those aspects so that she could bring in and tie in all these different bits of the plot. But I feel like there must have been a better way to do it. There must have been a way to have done it using slightly less points of view, or maybe giving us bigger chunks of people's points of view at a time. I mean, there was times where we would be in a chapter and we had flitted between 3 characters in one chapter, and the chapters weren't massively long. So I think that is what brought it down to a 4-star from me. Had it been that little bit quicker in the middle, and we'd gone at a bit more of a pace, and there had been slightly less points of view, I think this would have been another 5-star for me, because I just thought she writes these worlds and these plots so well. The other thing that I was slightly disappointed with was the ending. I was reading it, I don't want to spoil anything, so I won't, but I'll make it so that you understand if you've read it. And I was thinking, oh, we've only got a few pages left. I'm actually quite pleased that this sort of romantic element hasn't come into play. I'm quite pleased that that hasn't been the case. I feel that's going to be a strong ending. You know, there doesn't have to be a romance to make it work. It's nice to have this sort of mutual respect for each other. And then, like, within moments, it all, like, flipped. And I was just a bit disappointed with that, I think. Not that it was a cop-out, but I just felt like it would have possibly been stronger had it been left how it could have been without bringing that romantic element in. That's all I'm saying, and I hope that doesn't spoil anything, and it shouldn't. So yeah, it was a good book, but not as good as Uprooted for me, unfortunately, and so a strong 4 stars. I'd still recommend reading it. If you like Naomi Novik's work, I think you'll really enjoy this. So now on to book 2 for me. It is Monday, so I've still got 5 days, but I don't know how much reading I'm going to get done, but I'm hoping if I read quite a bit this afternoon that I can read Exit West this afternoon, leaving me with 2 proper books. My book of lists and my graphic novel, which I might be able to start the graphic novel or the book of lists this evening. I'll just have to see how I get on and how tired I am. Okay, I'll catch up with you in a bit. Hi guys, so it's now Tuesday and I'm feeling a little bit better. I'm still in quite a lot of pain, but it's getting better and I'm less tired, which is good. And I've just finished my next book, which is Exit West by Mohsin Hamid, and I was pleasantly surprised with this. It's a literary fiction novel, and I was expecting, as I do with literary fiction, which I feel is unfair to literary fiction really, that I go into it expecting it to be a bit pretentious and something that I don't find very readable, and that's definitely not the case with Exit West. It was a thoroughly readable story, and it was full of really interesting insights into immigration and migration and religion. And our main characters in here are Nadia and Saeed, and they meet when they're sort of in their 20s, I believe, and they meet as their city is going through sort of a civil war starting to brew. You can feel it at the beginning of the story, and they're meeting, and as things become more and more dangerous where they live, these doors begin to open where there weren't doors before. So it might be that you would be in your house and the door to your study would all of a sudden become black, and that would become a door to another country. And what this really does is it removes the need for a big long narrative about the journey, the migratory journey to another place. And it allows you to sort of be there, and that doesn't sort of take away, I think, from obviously the fact that people have to go through that and do go through that. I think it just allows Mohsin to bring us instantly there and look more closely at the realities of once you've moved to somewhere else. I really enjoyed this following of their relationship. They are the only real named characters throughout the whole story, and I think that's important because they are the sort of people that we're following, but we do get these little vignettes of other people's lives dipped in and out, and it just to sort of add a bit more of a sort of texture to the story really, and add a little bit more oomph behind it. So I really liked that. I liked this following of their narrative and of their relationship, but through the eyes of different countries. They visit and live in quite a few different places, and looking at not just how the natives of those countries perhaps perceive people, but also other immigrants and other people that have moved for various different reasons from their own countries. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I definitely think it's a very worthy 4-star read for me. There's one bit that really sort of stood out, a piece of writing that I really enjoyed, and I just thought I'd read you that very small snippet. And also I think it'll give you an idea of the writing style, which I feel this could be one of those books. It's only just over 200 pages. It's one of those books that actually begs to be read out loud. And I know that I watched an interview with Mohsin Hamid, who said that when his writing process is that he reads aloud all of his work, and that is sort of a big part of his process, and I can see that in reading it. It feels like a book that needs to be read out loud. So when Saheed and Nadia start to meet, and they meet up, Saheed is quite a modern young man, although he's religious and he prays, and Nadia is dressed in a complete veil, and yet is much more she doesn't pray, and she's not really religious, and she rides a motorbike. And so in some ways there's sort of a bit of a juxtaposition here of this wearing of this veil. And so this is what happens. When Saheed and Nadia finally had coffee together in the cafeteria, which happened the following week after the very next session of their class, Saheed asked her about her conservative and virtually all-concealing black robe. "If you don't pray," he said, lowering his voice, "why do you wear it?" They were sitting at a table for two by a window overlooking snarled traffic on the street below. Their phones rested, screens down between them, like the weapons of desperados at a parley. She smiled, took a sip, and spoke, the lower half of her face obscured by her cup. "So men don't fuck with me," she said. And I just thought that was really quite impactful, just that really small section, and this choice that she's made to wear this for a reason very different to what you might expect. And in his interview, Mohsin explained that sort of came from his own life, where he lives in Lahore. He's moved from various different places in his life, to America, back to Pakistan, to England, and back to Pakistan again. And he has a number of women in various parts of his life who choose to wear these robes for various different reasons. There is a woman who wears it for religious reasons. There is a famous woman who is a film actress who wears it when she's not acting, so that people don't recognise her. There is another woman he knows who uses it as a tool of getting people to take her seriously. And I just thought that was a really interesting concept there, of this choice that Nadia makes to wear this. And she actually chooses, and she wears this the whole way through the book, even to the very end where we see her as an older woman. So I thought that was really impactful. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I think a really strong 4 stars, maybe 4.5 if I was doing half stars. So I'm really pleased with that. I'm going to move on to, I think, to the group book now, which I think is called Empress of All Seasons, which is a YA fantasy. So I'm hoping to get stuck into that one today. And yeah, I'll come back to you in a bit. Hi guys, so I'm here to talk about The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. This is my book club pick for this month, my in real life book club pick, and also ties into one of the challenges. I think it was about a cover that was horrible, and I wanted to use this as an opportunity to pick it up. And if you remember my last video, I was like, oh, I'll try and read a little bit tonight. I finished this book yesterday. I stayed up and read it. I couldn't put it down. Now, it's not ended up being a 5 stars, but a very strong 4 stars. But I was just super engrossed in this. It pulled me through. It was just fascinating. We flitted between the 1950s and 2014, and we're following, in the 1950s, we're following 4 girls that are at a boarding school called the Idlewild Hall, and they're there for various different reasons. In the 1950s, people sent their girls away to boarding school because they were ashamed of them, or because of something that's happened, or things that were going on at home, and we slowly learn a little bit about them. We learn about Idlewild Hall with its ghostly presence, which is really eerie. I couldn't sleep last night. And then we also skip to 2014, where a journalist is struggling to forget her sister's murder 20 years previous. She's struggling to come to terms with everything. She still finds herself going out to just outside Idlewild Hall where the murder occurred. Someone was arrested and sentenced, and yet she still feels this unease that things are left not properly done. So we're following these 2 different things, and then there's also this murder at Idlewild Hall in the 50s, and so, or a disappearance of some sort. So you're following these 2 timelines. They connect, they weave, they flip back and forth, and I just loved it. It was a really, really good sort of crime thriller, paranormally. There was sort of a ghostly element to it, a supernatural element, which I think just went to heighten the suspense. So I definitely recommend this one. I'll come back to you when I've got some more to say about the next one. Hi guys, so I'm going to be wrapping it up here. It's now Friday, it's quite late, and I have finished the challenges that I think I'm going to finish. I haven't finished any more books since I last spoke to you, and that's mainly because I just felt a little bit burnt out, like I just wanted to take a bit of a break, and I've started a novella that I've wanted to read for a while, but it doesn't fit into any of the challenges. So I'm really pleased with how I did this week. I didn't complete all the challenges. I missed off the final 2, so I didn't end up reading my copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, the graphic novel. But I just think it wasn't the right time for that for me. I just wasn't feeling it, and I don't want to push that because it's one that I really want to enjoy. And I didn't read my book of lists, but I think that's one that I would rather sort of dip in and out of rather than feeling like I have to read it straight away. So I think the main thing that I enjoyed, and that I do enjoy in general about readathons, is that it makes me think about reading, and it makes me focus on my reading. And I was chatting to someone recently about sort of this motivation to read, and recently in the cold months especially, I just want to sit and sometimes just watch loads of rubbishy romance films. And I think part of me just wants to read romancy books as well at this time of year for some reason. And I was finding that I was watching a lot more TV than I was reading. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's fine to take a break. But I miss reading, and it's such a big part of me. I really miss it when I don't do it. And so what I started doing is saying to myself, okay, well, you can watch films all night and you can watch Netflix all night, but what you have to do is you have to read for 20 to 25 minutes first. Because 20 to 25 minutes isn't a long time, and you've still got plenty of time, or I have, after that, to do any of those things, time to watch a film before bed or whatever I want to do. But I said to myself 20 to 25 minutes reading first. And I would say 80% of the time I ended up carrying on reading for most of the time. I may have stopped to do a bit of Netflix afterwards, but I ended up getting caught up, and so caught up in the book that I didn't want to put it down, and ended up reading most of the evening. So I think trying to get myself into the mindset of that really worked for me, and just pushed me to do something that maybe I wasn't feeling but ended up loving anyway. So I think I'm going to carry on doing that a little bit. But yeah, I'll wrap this up here because it's a massively long vlog otherwise, and I will be coming back to you soon with some more recent reads and letting you know what I've been reading other than these. If you've read any of these, let me know your thoughts. I know that I think that the girls that I've been chatting to about Spinning Silver had similar feelings to me on it. So I'd be interested to hear what other people's thoughts were on that one as well. Yeah, anyway, so that's it from me, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now, BookTube.